Hello and welcome to what will be a series of videos on how to use a mixing desk, how to set up speakers, drums, guitars, basses, keyboards and vocals and a playback. A lot of the stuff that we're going to cover today is basically how to set up your first gig. If you're doing a gig somewhere, you don't know anything about it, this series will help you take you all the way through to knowing nothing to knowing everything. So, in today's video, what we're going to talk about is mainly it's going to be the setting up of the mixing desk, setting up the speakers, and how to get sound coming through the mixing desk into the speakers. So let's get on with today's video. So in this video, we're going to be using an X32 mixing desk. So it's a Behringer. It's 32 inputs and 16 outputs. You've got two main left and right outs with 14 bus or auxes that you can use. It's fully equipped with things like gain, EQ, bus sends, it's got gate dynamics, but we'll cover that later on in the video and throughout the rest of the series. If we go over to all of the other equipment, we have got two top speakers and one monitor. So in this video, I'll be showing you how to set up the main speakers, but also a monitor and how to set that up. Got loads of power cables, XLR and jack inputs, but we can talk about those and what they are, what they do when we get to using them. And then we've also got something called a snake, but you might also hear it called a stage box or a multi-core, but we'll talk about that more when we get to it. But that's all the equipment we're going to be using for today's video. I will be using a piece of software that's called Logic Pro, because I have what you call multi-track on there. So it's lots and lots of tracks of audio that I'm going to put in through the X32 to get some sound coming out and to show you how to use all of the features on the X32. Okay, so first off, I've talked about all the equipment. Now we need to get the equipment set up for how it's going to work. So first off, we are going to set up our two speakers. So we've got the left side and the right side. We're going to set those up. We're going to plug it into the X32. And we're going to set the monitor up. Once all of that's done, we will go on to then showing you how to use the X32 and how to use all of its really, really good features. So, first off, what we're going to do is we're going to grab these big stands. These are speaker stands. So, to set them up, there's a little screw on the bottom. Unscrew that. You can pull the legs out each side. So push it down, pull the legs out, and you can make it however high or however low you want it. So I'm going to put them one about here, and we're going to have it about there to start with. Tighten it up all the way through, make sure it's tight. Then we're going to grab the next one, pull it up. There's only me in here, so we'll put it about. Because remember as well with these stands, you've got this stand, but then on top of that, you've got the speaker height as well. So you've got to take into account the speaker height as well as the stand height. So we'll tighten that up. We've got a little pin. This pin is just a safety. It'll go through the hole and it will just come out the other side to make sure that it's all done nicely. Okay. Unfortunately, this pin is a little bit too big, so it won't actually go through the hole, no matter through what we do. We've tried everything, but it won't go through. So we're just going to leave it there, make sure the screw is really, really tight, and for today's purposes, it shouldn't fall on these stands, and make sure of it. You've just got to then get your speaker. If you need two people to help you put the speaker on top, it is like, I would suggest doing it, but with these you can use it with just one person. So put the speaker on. Some speakers have screws in the back, so you can screw it on and make sure it's tight. These ones don't. These are Yamaha DBR10s. I'm just going to point them in to the middle of the room, because that's where I'll be standing. If you have a full audience in here, you might want to point them straight out. Or if you've got more than two speakers, we won't cover that in this series, you might want to point them in all different directions. But you can, with these stands and speakers, you can point them to wherever they need to go. So that's this one. Then it's the exact same. We can stand over here. We're going to set it up. Make sure, you want to make sure that it is roughly at the same height, because you don't want to come into a problem where it's at different heights. Because when it's at different heights, you get a little bit of a problem with sound travelling to different people at different times. So it's not all one thing. So again, make sure that screw's nice and tight, unscrew, and you want to make sure that it's at the same height. Right, that one's on 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes, 4 holes. There we go. And that one is near the bottom of that one. Again, if the pin will go through, you can put it through. There we go, this pin goes through. So the pin's there as a safety, so if this fails or if something goes out, then when that pin comes unscrewed and there's weight on this, it'll fall and catch on the pin. So that you're not damaging, number one, the speakers, and number two, anyone close by. So yeah, just make sure they're all in line. Again, grab the speaker. You can have two people, you can have one person do this. And you just want to put it on top. That feels really, really low. So I think we're at different heights here. So this one is 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you're using two different types of speaker stand, different heights might mean different things. So on this one, it is definitely not this high. So if you want to adjust it, take the speaker off, and you just want to unscrew it, put it up a little higher. There we go. Put your safety pin back through, and then we're just going to put it on top. That seems better. So again, we're going to angle them in. Right, now we've got our two speakers set up, same height roughly, and we're going to want to get power to them, because if we don't have power, then the speakers aren't going to work. So, for these speakers to work, we need two things really. Number one, we need obviously an extension cable, because then the extension cable can go from the outlet to the speakers. And number two, we're going to need something that's called that's a power cable for the speakers. These quite often come with the speakers. Lots of people call these kettle cables. I've got no clue why they call them a kettle cable, but that's the term that people call them. So kettle cable will go into the back of the speaker, which will then go into the power. So first off, power. So we will run this power. There is a socket on the wall over there, so we'll just run it over there. Try and run your cables as neatly as you can, because then when it comes to you actually doing a gig, it means that it is easier to take the cables down, and if you take the cables down, it's less likely for people to trip over them. So, my power is now in place. I'm going to find the power socket on the speaker, plug it in, and we're just going to plug that straight in to the power on back extension cable. Whatever you do, don't turn the speakers on yet, because we want to make sure that we've got everything else plugged in before we turn them on, otherwise we might get popping sounds or anything. So next, we don't have a plug over the other side of the stage, so we're going to do the best that we can. We're just going to have to daisy chain the speakers together and daisy chain the power over the front to this speaker. Again, same as the other one. Plug it into the socket on the extension cable, and then plug your cat cable in to the speaker up here. Okay. So with these, again, you want to try and keep the cable as neat and tidy as you can. So if you need to, just lift the bottom of the speaker stand up and run it so it's in a nice straight line at the front of your stage. Okay? Right, we've got that sorted. Okay? Now we need to sort out our monitor. Okay? So front of house is sorted power-wise and set up, but they are not plugged in to our mixing desk. This is a alto monitor. It can be used as a front of house monitor, but it can also, when it's tipped on its side, other way, can be used a floor monitor or what you call a wedge, because it kind of looks like a wedge that you might prop a door open with or something. Okay, don't prop a door open with them. So, again, on these, you've got your power, or your input, you've got a link, so if you've got multiple but want to use it on the same one. So if I had, say, 3 floor monitors, but I all wanted them on what we call the same mix, I could link them together to the next one, and everything would be good. And then you've got your power control, your gain control and your volume control there. Okay, so again, same with the other 2 monitors, we need to get power set in. So we're going to use an extension cable, okay, to go from one extension to the other. And that can just sit at the back there. We're then going to grab the cat cable, which is actually quite long. So in this instant, we might not need this. So if I have that there and run it along, we can pretty much reach our monitor. So we don't actually need this cable. So this one can just go back to the side, plug it in, and we are all set. So, front of house speaker, and a monitor for the performers that are on stage. Obviously, we're not going to have any performers in this video, but we will have some performers in the next coming videos when we get onto the instruments. Okay? So, now, what we've got to do is we've got to set up our snake. So, this snake here, this is 8 inputs and 4 outputs. Okay? So you've got a box that will sit on your stage, and then over on the other side here, you've got some inputs and you've got some outputs. Okay? There. These inputs and outputs, these will plug into your desk, and the other ends plug into the outputs of the desk as well. And this will just run from your mixing desk to the front. You can get these in any sort of length. You can get them from anywhere from this, which I think is about a 5 metre one, all the way up to like 25, 50 metres in what you call an analogue box. You can also get digital stage boxes, which do the exact same job. They just run a little differently. The digital ones might plug in a different way, and you have to do different things on the desk, but we're not going to go into detail about that. So this one we just need to set up. So we're going to run it from down the side here, and we're going to have it at the side of our stage. So now we're here. We just need to find our inputs. So this is number 5 here. So we're going to look for input 5 along here, and we're going to plug it into the desk. We can ignore our outputs for the minute. This is 1, so this one will go into number 1. This is 6, so this will go into number 6, so on and so forth, until they're all plugged in the right spot. And then we'll do the same with our outputs, but our outputs can be a little bit different and a little bit confusing. So, depending what you want to use for your main mix and for your monitors, things can get a little bit confusing here, because obviously on this desk here, you've got your main left and your main right, which is 16 and 15. And then you've got all of your other monitors for what you could have. But on this snake, we've got A, B, C, D. So for what we want, A is going to be our right monitor, and B is going to be our left monitor. Then we're going to have C as our front monitor, and we don't need D, so we can leave D hanging, or we can plug it in. It doesn't make any difference. Okay? So, now that's done. It's the exact same. Just we need some power. So, this desk, we have I've got a special cable for the desk. It's the exact same, it's a kettle cable, but we just keep it with the desk so we know that it's always got power. And then you just need to go and plug it into a socket just to make sure that it's working, and then it'll be time to switch everything on. Okay, so we've now plugged our snake in. Now we need to make sure that the signal is flowing from one speaker, from the desk to one speaker, and from the other speaker to that one. So, how do we do that? So, we do that by using what we call XLR cables. So these XLR cables will show you, we'll get closer to the camera here. So these XLR cables they are 3 pins. You've got a female side and a male side. The male side has the pins, the female side has the holes that the pins go into, okay? So from there, what you do is you'll find the output of the snake, which will be which you'll plug your female end into, and you'll find the input of the speaker, which the male end will go into. However, for this snake, this has a jack outputs. So if you're not familiar with the jack cable, you might know the guitar cable. It's similar to that, but not quite the same. It's got a tip, a ring, and a sleeve, so TRS. So it will still give you a left and right, but jack cable isn't balanced, which an XLR cable is. However, this is a jack 2 XLR cable. So it goes from unbalanced to balanced. So on our desk, our right output was A, and our left output was B. This is our left speaker, so we're going to plug this into B, nicely plugged in, and this is going to go to our inputs up at the top. Okay, so one speaker is plugged in, and our mixing desk is powered on. Then our right output is going to go, is A. So we're going to plug this in, untangle first, because these cables seem to get very, very tangled very, very easily. There we go, it's untangled. This is going to plug into A. And then remember about cables, keeping them trying to keep them as neat and tidy as possible. We're going to run this under, all the way through, along, under this one, and then we're going to run it up and in. Okay? So, from there, mixing desk is powered on, right? These two speakers will be able to be turned on. But first, we've got to plug in our monitor. So our monitor will be plugged in. That's in C, so we'll plug it into C. And then we'll plug it into the back of our speaker. Again, once I've untangled this cable. Because cables will always be cables, and they get very, very tangled very easily if they're not kept properly. There's the end. Okay, so this one will run underneath and into that monitor. And then it will plug into the back like that. Okay, so we are all set up. Okay, so we're all plugged in. Now we need to turn everything on. So when you go to these speakers, you just got to make sure that there is a volume knob, okay? To make sure that is all the way down. On these ones you've got some little switches on different bits. Most of the switches, so we've got a high pass filter on ours, that can be turned off. On these ones as well, you can also choose between whether they're front of house speakers or their monitors. We want them front of house, and you can also choose between mic or line. Okay, so we're going to have this on line because it is coming from our mixing desk. So that is one speaker. Once that is done, you can turn the switch on, and there will be some lights that come on at the back saying it's powered on and everything is working. Once you've done that, you want to turn the knob up to 12 o'clock, it will be 0. It's the same for pretty much any speaker you use. So this one is our monitor. Make sure it's all the way down. This one doesn't have any switches on. We can turn it on, the power comes on, and turn it up to 12 o'clock. And then it's the exact same with this one because it's the exact same type of thing. Turn it down, switch it on to make sure everything's turned on properly, and turn it up to 0. So, all of our speakers are plugged in over here. Now I'm going to show you how to plug in a microphone. We've got a microphone stand here. So we'll just undo the legs. So these are different to speaker stands because they're not meant to hold as much weight. These are only supposed to hold microphones. And then we'll make sure it's in the right spot for our microphone. Now I don't have anyone to help me, so I'm going to put this up to the height that I would have it, so that when it comes to it, I can come speak into this microphone. Tighten that all the way up, nice and tight. Then we're going to grab our microphone and we're going to grab a cable. Our microphone for today is a Shure SM58. This is a dynamic microphone. You'll see quite a lot of singers use them because they're what you call the industry standard. Pretty much everyone uses them for like live performances. They're pretty much indestructible. So yeah, this is the microphone that we're using today. It's what you call a cardioid microphone as well. So it only picks up from like a love heart position. Yeah? So it only picks up from like that. So if you're in front of it here, it'll make that love heart position. So it only picks up from around here. Okay? It doesn't pick up from the back. It won't pick you up all the way to over here. It won't pick you up all the way to over here. It's very directional, so it'll only pick you up if you are here speaking into it. Okay? So, now, we need to plug this microphone in. You're going to plug it in. Make sure it's plugged in the right way. Female end goes into the microphone. And then the male end, we're going to plug in to input 1. Make sure that's put the other way. So, our stage is set. This is what we're dealing with today. You might only have this set up if you're doing karaoke's, or if you're doing, I don't know, if you're like one person and you're just singing to some backing tracks. Yeah? Or it might be a very similar setup, just with one extra input, if you're someone that plays the guitar and you sing as well. 2 speakers, monitor, microphone, and then the guitar. But we'll show you how to plug that guitar in another episode coming up. So, now, we need to move over to our mixing desk, and we're going to start getting some sound coming through. Okay, so, now, we're all set up on our stage, over here, and we're going to try and get some sound coming through the desk. So, to start with, what you need is, on the back of the desk, there is something called a 32 channel USB audio interface. You'll put a USB-B cable out of that over to your laptop. That can be a Mac or a Windows machine. And I've already got something set up here, just so we can get some sound coming through, and I can show you the basics. Then I'll show you how to get a microphone from the stage coming into here. So first off, what you've got is, you've got your master fader over here. And to get some sound coming out, we're going to put that up to 0 or unity. And then we're just going to press play. And if I turn these guitars up, we'll get some sound. We get some sound out. Okay? If I put all of them up and do just like a rough mix of something here,
they say you've not been here before. I'd like to welcome you aboard. Show you the reason I define how solar envy draws the line. Just when I think I made it out, confusion's growing all around. Guess I should try this new light. Up on again.
Okay, so we have sound coming out of our speakers now. How do we get that sound out of a monitor? So to get sounds out of a monitor, what you're going to do is, along here, you've got things called mix buses. These mix buses are the outputs that are on the back. So we've got as in 1, which I've already got set up, number 1. Right, so if you select, so at the top you've got selects. If you press select, it'll select that channel. So anything you do up at the top, which we'll come to in a minute, will then change this channel, which is a bus. Okay? You will then press sends on fader, and you can add your mix in. Just like this. Nice little mix, not too much bass. Some guitars, some piano, and a vocal. And then, if we click off that, everything goes back to normal. Click it, goes up, click it back down. Because when send on fader isn't on, we're adjusting everything in the main mix. When it is on, we're adjusting everything that is over here. So if I go back to the start, and I pull this fader up, that is coming out of our monitor. Now, what happens if the person at the front doesn't want to hear, I don't know, or wants to hear more of the vocals or the piano? You click send on fader, you give them more piano and more vocals.
They say you've not been here before.
Now, what if they want less drums? Fine. We go over to drums and we bring all the drums down. But they say, oh, but I need to hear the kick. So you give them some more kick.
It's still alive. Up on a cancer, Bobby Ride.
And that is how we've got our monitor working. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use all of the things up here. So, next is the gate. So as you can see here, we've got our screen with the line going up and down. That shows every time the kick is hit. So if I put it up a bit, you can see that it picks up a little bit of everything else in the background. So we want to try and get rid of that, so it is just the kick sound that we're hearing. So we need to turn this knob up, we need to turn the gate on by pressing that button, and then we're just going to turn it up. Until we're getting more of the kick sound, less of everything else. Over on the screen here, you've got some things over here. So you've got threshold, mode, attack, hold, release, and range. If you turn hold down, you can see it only picks up now when the kick is hit, and there's not much sustain afterwards. But if you turn that up, you can hear there's a little bit after that. So we want to turn it down a bit, just so we don't get much strain. Now for me, this kick drum doesn't need much compression. It's already really, really punchy. So, but if we wanted to add compression, we'd be here, we'd come over to we'd press view, would show us this is our compressor. From here, you'll turn this knob up. So first turn it on. If you turn it on, it'll take it down in volume and the compression will come in. Okay? Then for the gain, to make it just a little bit louder back to what it was, and it just levels it out. So any kick that was really loud will come quieter. Any kick that was really quiet will be brought up and be louder. Okay, so now we've sorted out this half of the mixing desk. We've gone through gain, we've gone through frequency, from low cut, EQ to gate, dynamics, which is compression. If you wanted to then be like, actually, this kick that I've got here, it needs some reverb on it. we can add reverb onto it through this mixing desk. So using the sends, just like we've done for the monitor, you can do the exact same thing, but it will just go out to everywhere rather than go to an output. So on bus 2, I've got a drum reverb set up. So over here, you've got your bus sends. Again, you've got 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12, 13 to 16, because you've got 16 buses. So over here, we're on 1 to 4 because it's obviously bus 2. If we turn this up, right, it will give us some reverb on here. So if I go to, say, the kick, the sub kick, here, and then, obviously we've turned it up here, and over here I turn the fader up a bit. You can see it's really reverby, and it's a big kick then, rather than dry. Another way to do it again is using sends on faders. So what you can do then, from there, is sends on faders is turned on. You can turn everything up. And this entire kit will now have reverb on it. So even if I turn that down, if I turn the reverb up, that's just the reverb sound that we've got set. And obviously you can mix that in to everything else is there. Okay? So, the next thing you've got is over here. You've got your pan. So, obviously, we want it to be stereo. We don't have to turn this on because this is for the buses. So, if you got a drum kit on stage, which we will have in the next video, you're going to want to pan stuff about. So you want to keep your kicks and your snares in the middle. But over here with your high tom, mid tom, low tom, hi-hats and overheads, we're going to want to pan them. So if your high tom, over here, obviously I've got some EQ, I've got some gate on it already. We're going to pan it so that it's where we want it to be. With a high tom, if we're looking at the stage, okay, so we're here looking at the stage. For a high tom, our drum kit's in the middle, the high tom's there. So we're going to want to pan it that way. So we come back down to the desk, over to the pan, and we're going to just want to turn it a bit so that it's panned that way. Only a little bit, not much. And then it's the same for the mid tom. Mid tom's the other way. So you select the channel, turn it a little bit that way. Low tom's more that way. And the hi-hats are very definitely more that way. Now, with our overheads here, I've got them on something called a link. So at the minute now, they're unlinked, so I can move these separately. They can be different volumes. But with overheads, they're the same. So we want to link them together. Yes. Now, if I move one, it'll move together like this. And it automatically pans it left and right for you. Okay? So, now that we've done that, I want to get into showing you reverbs and stuff like that. Okay? And then we'll get on to showing you the microphone. Okay, so with a reverb or effects, you already have some presets over here. Down the side, you've got buttons which you can press which change all of these. You can ignore the first one, which is DCAs, But then you've got here, buses. These buses, you've got bus 1 to 8 first, and 9 to 16. It's the same with over here. Channel 1 to 16, channel 17 to 32. Okay. You can also access your buses from over here by pressing Bus Master. It will show you all 16 buses that you've got. So, you've already got 4 preset buses. You've got reverb, delay, another reverb, and I think another delay. You can view these by pressing Effect, and it will show you everything that's on. So on 13, we've got reverb, 14, we've got reverb, we've got 15, which is delay, and 16, which is the chorus. So you can use this on anything. But you can change these to whatever you want them to be. So I've got this set, so the drum reverb is on 2. And it's a whole reverb. You can change these by using these 2 knobs, and it will change whatever bus you want it on, or you can have it on a channel. So if I go down to our drum reverb and click Edit, which is this far one, you've got all the settings here. So I can change it so it's got a longer decay, shorter decay, a bit damper, how loud it is. Now obviously because it's a bus, we want it all the way up because we want the wet sound, and then we can mix that into the dry sound. From there, it's as simple as sending the signal from here to your bus, turning it up, and you've got it. If I turn it up, you can see up here, the level comes up a bit. So, now, on to getting sound from the stage to the X32 mixing desk. So, here we are. We're going to select our channel, which is already selected. We're on a blank sheet now. So, nothing's changed, everything's changed. So, number 1 is where our microphone's put in. From here, what you're going to do, you're going to go to your gain, you're going to turn it up. Normally you'd have someone speaking into it, but we're just going to go roughly about there. Because obviously I've got quite a loud voice and I don't want it to be too loud. Then what we're going to do, we're going to make sure our volume's pushed up to 0. But the big thing we've got to be wary of is feedback. So if I push this up now, all the way, we don't get any feedback, which is a good thing. We don't want it. It's a really, really high squeaky noise. But I feel if I push this up too high and push this up, and when I'm talking, it could give us some feedback. So that's something you've got to be wary of, especially when you've got a lot of microphones on stage. So, let's go and see if it's working. So, we're over here, and I start talking into the microphone, and we've got some sound coming out. And it is as simple as that. Now, that's only coming out of our front of house speakers. If we want that coming out of our monitor as well, we have to do the monitor send on here. So, to do that, remember, make sure our channel's selected. Go up to our sends, and we're going to turn that up to about halfway. Again, you can go sends on fader, and it'll be there. This one, we don't want to put too high up, like this. Otherwise, it will cause feedback, because obviously you're having sound going straight up to where the microphone is. Even though this microphone is a cardioid, so it won't pick up from behind it, if it is too loud, obviously in here is a very reflective space. It can bounce off everywhere. And we don't want that to happen. So we're going to keep it just under 0. Click off, send off fader. We're then going to push our monitor up. But again, don't push it too high. But luckily, because of today, we don't have much in here. There's not a lot of noise. We're not going to get loads of feedback. Again, so just keep it just under 0. So, if we now walk over to there, we're going to have, hopefully, some sound coming out of our monitors. And it can be quite hard to hear if the sound's coming out of the monitors. But there is sound coming out of them, it's just not very loud. So, if it's not very loud, all you've got to do is just turn up the volume a bit. You turn it up, go over to your microphone again, and 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello. So obviously I'm not talking the loudest that I can, purely because I want to save my voice. I don't want to be like, I'm not a singer, so I don't want to hurt my voice. But if I was to speak louder, I'm sure you'd hear it a lot better because I'm projecting. So, what have we learned for today? We've learned how to set up these 2 speakers, and one over there, how to set up the monitor, how to set up a microphone, and most importantly, how to use the X32 mixing desk, which is a hard piece of kit to learn. But if you follow along with the video, it will help and it will be a little bit easier. So, we've learned all of that today. Next week, we're going to learn how to use the X32 and all of this equipment with a drum kit. So we're going to have a drum kit out, we're going to have microphones, and we're going to learn how to set everything up through the drum kit. So thank you for watching. We're going to be here next week, and I'll see you then. Bye.